Yeah, PhD.
I am proud of that, but this is, I'm more proud. I'm more proud of that. The thing that I'm most proud of in science is hilariously not my PhD, which I was completely overjoyed at getting, but this is better. Cast your mind back. Think of me as a year 6 school pupil, and I got to go to the Royal Institution of Great Britain to see a lecture, and it was all about science. I had no idea what science was, and I was just watching people blowing things up, and I just thought to myself, this is awesome. I think I want to do this for the rest of my life. And then, cut to, however many years later in 2015, well actually cut to 2014 first, I get a letter through the post, which is right here, right? This letter had me jumping around the Institute because it was a letter that invited me to give a Friday evening discourse at the Royal Institution. Now, I've done much bigger lectures. I've done lectures of, 1,000-2,000 people, but the sort of privilege of being asked to do this lecture was overwhelming. And the first thing I did was, bound down to Howard Wilson's office and just go, look what I've been invited to do, and rang out my dad because I knew he'd be so happy to be able to deliver a lecture on lasers to, the general public at the Royal Institution, which is where it all started for me. So it was just a complete privilege to be able to do it. And so actually then when it came round to April 2015, it was such a joy to design that lecture, to go along and actually be there at the time. And it's really weird on the day. It's full of pomp and circumstance because it's the lecture that's been running for 150 or something years. It's the kind of lectures that Faraday used to do at the famous Faraday Lecture Theatre. So basically I got locked in a room beforehand, and the reason that is because one of the lecturers many years ago actually ran away before the lecture could be begin, so it's kind of hilarious. So you get all mic'd up, and you have to wear black tie as well, which is very, very strange, and you get locked in a room beforehand, and then on the strike of 8 the doors burst open and you have to walk in, and there's no introductions, and then you have to just launch straight into it and say your bit, and then on the bong of 9 it stops, and it was just such an incredible experience, and you can tell from my face just how amazing it was. And then they gave me a really nice dinner afterwards. So, brilliant lecture and lots of food. What could be better in life? Outreach is a bit of a pet passion of mine, okay? It's not really part of my job description, but I do see it as part of the job role of a scientist. If you can do it, then you should do it, because we're funded by the UK taxpayers, and I think we have a duty to spread the joys of the joys of science to everyone, but also to then invite dialogue back as well about what we're doing. So that's fundamentally why I do that. Why did I start doing it? Well, I was a sort of wide-eyed, naive 22-year-old, and thought I could change the entire world. I think probably I'm much less naive now. I see myself as an entertainer who entertains people with physics, and any more than that is a bonus. But it's such a joy to be able to go and talk to people about this stuff. So I started off with doing things like talks to schools. I got involved in a project at the time that was called Researchers in Residence, where you've got to go week after week into a school and do some outreach projects with the pupils in year 10, and then they had to create a talk out of what you had worked on together, and they took that to a regional conference. And the pupils that I did that with, they won their regional conference, and then we got to go to the Royal Institution to the sort of national conference to take part. And so that was really fun, and I think that's what really kind of sparked my interest in doing this kind of work. And over the years, I've managed to do bigger things, like get involved with things like the British Science Festival and Cheltenham Science Festival. I've been on the telly and on the radio, and there's always such a buzz. You're always a little bit nervous beforehand. I mean, with talks now, not so much, but especially when you're doing sort of television or radio work, there's that little bit of buzz beforehand, and then afterwards you feel really relieved that it's gone well, or sometimes you don't know if it's gone well, because if you're on the radio, you have absolutely no idea what the listening public is doing or thinking at the, whilst you're blethering at them out of the radio hole. So one never knows, but it's just, for me, it keeps me sane, it keeps me on the right path. If I'm answerable to people, then it reminds you of what you're doing day by day, and you don't get bogged down in the real minutiae of the whole thing.